Hey, what's going on guys? It's Moto. In today's video, I'm going to be installing the Tusk Fender Eliminator on my Honda Xr150L. Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm installing the Tusk Fender Eliminator kit on the XR. As you can see, this is the OEM fender. It's actually not bad. I've owned a lot of bikes, and some of the bikes from factory come with some pretty nasty looking fenders. That being said, online I did some research and I found the Tusk Fender Eliminator kit. It was just about 50 bucks. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description if anyone wants to purchase it. And basically all it's gonna do is take the license plate and just snug it up towards the tail light. So unfortunately, because of how this bike is built, the Fender Eliminator kit options are not that great. I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that this is pretty much all one piece. So to disassemble this, you either have to cut the black plastic. I've actually seen some kits that require cutting it, or you have to remove the plastic altogether, which will expose some of the wiring. Unfortunately, the Tusk Eliminator kit is gonna be option 2, where it does expose some of the wiring. But my goal with that is I didn't wanna have to cut this plastic piece. I've seen some pictures online. It doesn't look too bad, so I picked it up. Like I said, it was only 50 bucks. So I'm hoping that it'll come out well. But anyways, let's hop over to the instructions and see what came with the kit. So this is everything that comes in the kit from Tusk. One benefit with this kit versus some others is it actually comes with the license plate light. It seems like a pretty straightforward install. Basically, we just have to remove the 2 side plastic pieces. We have to remove the seat as well as the rear rack, and then of course that rear fender. And the only tools I got for this job is just my socket set as well as some blue thread lock, just for when I'm installing these bolts. Let's head over to the bike and get the install started. Step 1 is to remove the side panels and the seat using your 10mm socket. And with this bolt removed, there's 2 grommets holding on the plastic, one up here and then one near the engine. Once again, with your 10mm socket, we'll remove the seat bolt. And now repeat that same process for the other side of the bike. Next, we're gonna remove the 6 bolts holding on the rear rack. And these bolts here, and on the other side are gonna be 12mm, and then these 2 are gonna be 10mm. And one thing I noticed when removing this bolt here on both sides, there is gonna be a nut on the back. And with my 10mm socket back on, I can remove the rest of the bolts. And when you go to reinstall all these components, keep in mind these shorter bolts will be up front and these longer bolts will be in the rear. Now we can remove the rack. And now carefully remove the rear plastic by pushing towards the gas tank. And now we can unplug the wire that is connected to the taillight. Now remove the 2 bolts holding on the taillight with your 10mm socket. Next, these 2 bolts. And now just remove the last 4 bolts holding on the fender. They're going to be located underneath the blinker, 2 bolts here and 2 bolts on the other side. And I just realized before we remove this fender, we do need to disconnect these 2 wires. And leave all these other wires. These are for your blinkers and they should not get in our way. You can now remove the rear fender. And now following the directions, we will assemble the new fender. First step is to take the OEM taillight and the Tusk bracket and slide them and insert them together, just like this. And taking the longest bolts, there should be 4 of them. This is the M625, along with one of the nuts. We're gonna install the bolts like this, through the bracket, and then take the nut and tighten that down. And with a 10mm wrench, as well as a 10mm socket, I'm gonna tighten this down. And we will not need the blue Loctite because these are nylon nuts. With that secure, we're gonna take one of these mid-sized bolts, the M20s. We're also going to take the wire shield here and install this now. And this M20 bolt is gonna be installed up top there with one of these nylon nuts. Now I'm just aligning up these bottom holes here before I tighten this the rest of the way. And with that tightened, we'll take our license plate bracket, which will go right here. And we're gonna take the remaining 2 M20 bolts, which are these 2 middle-sized bolts, and we're gonna put them through the license plate bracket and then through these holes here. And I should have mentioned this, but these bolts will also hold your license plate. I'm just doing this for a demonstration, but your license plate would go here, and then you would put these 2 bolts in and the nuts, and that will hold everything together. And I'm now gonna install the license plate light. And this little LED license plate light actually seems to be pretty good quality. It's even made from metal. But what you need to do is take your 2 wires and thread them through this hole over here. Do one at a time so that they fit. We'll thread that all the way through. And with the provided washer and nut, we'll install these over the wire. And tighten it down, and keep in mind when tightening this down, make sure that your LED is facing towards where your license plate will be. So in this case, I'm gonna have mine facing kind of in this direction, not straight down. I guess straight down would work fine, but I'm gonna try and angle it just a little bit. And because this is just a regular nut, I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite. So with that LED installed, it's starting to take shape. I am going to do something about these wires because they are exposed. I found a little piece of wire loom, or at least I believe that's what this is called. I'm just gonna stick it over, and then I'll thread these wires over into this hole here where this wire comes out. But I just don't want them exposed like that. I think this will protect them a little bit. If you don't have this, I think you could just use some heat shrink or some electrical tape. But I have this on hand, so I'm gonna give it a shot. And I think that came out pretty good. It'll just protect it a little bit more. Also, I have these 2 bolts here because you would use these for your license plate when you do install that. Obviously, your bolt on either side and then a nut. And taking the last 2 larger bolts and then the 2 nuts, we'll head over to the bike and finish the install. Now back at the bike, we will install the fender, matching up the 4 holes. We will take the bolt that comes with the Tusk kit, as well as that clip that we removed when taking apart the fender. We're gonna install it here in the rearmost hole. We'll take the locking nut that's provided by Tusk and tighten that down. And doing the same thing for the other side. And now tighten those down. And when tightening these down, make sure to line up these holes as well. And now we can reinstall all the wiring, starting with this clip here for your taillight. And these wires for your LED license plate light, keeping in mind that red is gonna be the power, black is ground. The ground on your bike is gonna be green, so black to green here. And then red to the black and orange line. Now's a good time to test all your lights, making sure your tail light still functions properly, as well as your new license plate light. And now I will take a second to reorganize all these wires. With those wires cleaned up, we'll install the plastic tailpiece, as well as the rear rack, making sure that all of the holes line up properly. With all those holes lined up, we can start by installing these smaller bolts over here in these holes, and then these larger bolts that will go in these holes here. And I'm just installing these by hand right now. I want to be able to just move this if I need to, just to make sure those holes line up. And then once everything's lined up, I can tighten it all down. And now for the bolt that holds the rack on its side over here. And now the last thing to do is tighten all these bolts, put the seat back on, and then the side panels. Alright guys, so we are all done with the install. I think it came out pretty good. Like I said earlier, I was a little concerned with some of the pictures I saw online showing some exposed wiring. Now it's definitely not perfect. I do believe that's just because of the design of this bike. They did the best they could. I think it came out pretty good overall. I did put that little wire loom on top of that wire just to protect it a little bit more. But I think that when you compare this to other options on the market, this one does not require you to cut the OEM plastic, so I definitely think that's a benefit. And I believe that's TST Industries kit that requires you to cut it. I'm sure it comes out good. I just didn't want to cut an OEM piece if I didn't have to. I've had their products in the past and they are really good, but that being said, I definitely think that for this bike, the Tusk is the way to go. Especially for 50 bucks, I think that that other product was significantly more. I'll link them both in the description for you guys to take a look. But I'm pretty happy with this install. Like I said, it was about 35 minutes or so, very straightforward, pretty much just a plug and play. There was no wire splicing or anything like that involved. And for those that are curious about the weight loss, it's definitely a lot lighter than the OEM one. I didn't put them on a scale, but if I had to guess, the OEM one is probably gonna be 3 or 4 pounds, where I would say this one is definitely less than a pound. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. If you guys have any questions about the install or the product itself, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And other than that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and make sure to ride safe.